Close your eyes and imagine this hypothetical situation. You are a developer for Tencent Games. As the name suggests, you are part of Tencent, China's largest multinational conglomerate with subsidiaries across the entire media landscape. In particular, they own minority stakes in Epic Games, developers of the Unreal Engine and the masterminds behind the Battle Royale sensation Fortnite. They also own a stake in Bluehole, developers of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, the codifier of the genre and the second most popular Battle Royale game. They also own a small stake in Activision Blizzard, developers of Call of Duty, that this year have released their own take on the Battle Royale genre that is slowly gaining traction. In short, you have a stake in nearly every major Battle Royale title on the market. But it's a small stake. So consider this. You could continue to eat slivers of other people's pies, or you could bake one all of your own. You decide to make your own Battle Royale game. You analyse the market, look for gaps, and start to consider what the next big thing in the genre could look like. You just need a unique selling point, an idea that is going to galvanise your title's identity and impress the mass audience. But what's it going to be? Hi, I'm GAMESD, and this week I'm talking about Ring of Elysium, the newest Battle Royale game from Tencent Games. So you may be wondering exactly, well, what is Ring of Elysium? Well, to give the blender pitch, it's PUBG meets SSX with little bits of Breath of the Wild stapled onto it. Set against the backdrop of a winter resort in the snowy mountains, it's a fight between you and 99 other players to be the last man standing. You'll loot, you'll shoot, and boot in order to survive, but included are exotic mobility options like paragliding, snowboarding, and abseiling. So far, so buttons. This doesn't sound different enough to the other Battle Royale games you've played to be worth your time, right? Well, there's a lot more depth to Ring of Elysium than you might give it credit for. The snow-soaked backdrop doesn't just give it a visual identity, but it also informs much of its game design. And while entertaining traversal is its own reward, those additional loadouts all blend into the game's take on surveying and surviving. So, what does Ring of Elysium do differently enough to the likes of Fortnite and PUBG to be worth taking a look at? So, before we look at what it does differently, let's poke at the obvious inclusions that Ring of Elysium includes and its particular take on them. It's a third-person shooter and a first-person shooter that you can swap between with a double click of the mouse. You can also use the Alt button to rotate the camera around your player to see over their shoulders and their entire surroundings. The name of the game is to survive against other players in this big arena. The map is as big as multiple football pitches. It's neither too big to get around, yet it's also not too small that fights feel like a constant looming threat in the early game. The map is totally free to roam in the early minutes of the game, where you're pushed to loot and tool up with any weapons or armaments you might find. You can also face off against other players to start scoring kills, or instead keep to yourself out of sight to survive. Eventually a wall of death forms around the map, pushing you and other players towards a particular centre point. This one is called Emir, and, well, he's pretty cool, because he'll freeze you to death if you get trapped in him for too long. Unlike its contemporaries, there is no traditional last man standing in Ring of Elysium. Fitting with its mounting top setting, the finale is instead a helicopter rescue. There are 4 seats available to anyone who can survive long enough and make it there in time. In other words, this is a game where you can win without ever having to shoot a gun. This is quite something for a survival game like this. It encourages non-lethal and even crafty approaches to success. Although, it's not going to be the easiest path to success. Over the course of the video, you're going to see why. It's actually funny to consider that this is a game where you start spread out on the ground to then converge towards the air vehicle, rather than the other way round, but hey. Speaking of which, before the beginning of every round, you choose on the map exactly where you want to spawn. You can also see exactly where other teams are going to spawn in. You might be thinking to yourself though, this is a bit of a dry take on the now iconic parachuting onto the map, but, well, it serves exactly the same functional purpose of showing where the heat is building on the map, and does it in a way that's quicker to pass. It's your choice whether you decide to go where the action is, or avoid it entirely. Then, when you start in the game world, you're already on the ground with a weapon in hand. So, that's another thing. In the preparation screen where you choose where to start on the map, you also have loadouts to consider. These aren't classes in the strictest sense, so they will influence how you play in game. You have trade-offs between starting weapons, storage space, and of course your extra mobility option. It may be advantageous to you to go in as hard as possible with a shotgun in hand right where the action is. Or maybe you're the scavenger type who wants a lot of storage to amass the best items for yourself or the rest of your team. Of course, you could just be a battle-agnostic coward like myself and just go for the most entertaining traversal options away from other players. And hey, Ring of Elysium very much had me covered for that. So I think that's pretty much the structure of the game covered. Oh, actually, before I forgot to mention, vehicles are also a pretty big part of the game. You'll find them in towns and near big structures. Fitting of the setting, they're all of the off-road variety and can traverse nearly all of the game's rough terrain. Like in other Battle Royale games, they're an upgrade to your main faculties. They're faster, meaning you'll get to the safe zone quicker, and take more damage than the player, meaning you'll survive longer. But they're also bigger, meaning you're easier to shoot, and noisier, meaning you're going to grab attention. Oh, also, all of your friends can fit in the bigger ones, and they can even stick out and do drive-bys like you're in GTA San Andreas. Although I guess in this case it's Snow Andreas, but hey. Again, this isn't anything super unique, but I haven't really got into what makes Ring of Elysium special. So, let's start with the biggie. The entire game is set in a snow-covered winter resort up in the mountains. The usual dirt and dour doldrums of the regular survival shooter is given a festive makeover that's bound to get you in the spirit of the season while you're gunning down well-armed strangers. When it comes to structures, you still have the usual suspects of shacks, two-storey homes and populated landmarks to shoot and loot from. But the game also has a few unique ideas for placements, like a quarry, a castle, and even a fully operational ski lift system you can use to travel between hotspots. And hey, there's Big Deer. Oh dear. But then there's lots of natural splendour to enjoy as well, and this is where things get interesting. You have tall mountains and low valleys shaping the terrain. They break up straight lines and sight lines, and they make strategy a little deeper. So, you'll want to get high for a few reasons. The movement has been rebalanced for this vertical orientated traversal. Vaulting is very much a part of Ring of Elysium's movement kit. You mount rocks, roofs, and even through winter. Oh whoops. Nearly every surface is mountable in Ring of Elysium. The game is particularly picky about you running up or going prone against its slopes. Doing so is going to increase your ability to survive and survey, and it's also going to increase your mobility in a way I'll dig into in the next section. Perhaps the most exciting thing about it is that it's a Battle Royale game where playing in the wilderness can be more advantageous to shacking up an entire round. You have a natural advantage of the surrounding wilderness to protect yourself, and the increased elevation to be able to clear out players below you. Meanwhile, if you are one of those players in the valleys facing against a high-up sniper, this rocky and obscuring terrain makes flanking opportunities possible. And of course, if you're a coward like myself, using nature's splendour for cover is entirely possible. It's quite easy to find a high-up vista to keep an eye on players who could be sneaking up on you, and make a break should they actually do. It's not a perfect solution, of course. One of the things you might notice about Ring of Elysium is that your character is dressed in head-to-toe black. Meanwhile, you're surrounded by a sea of white snow. It makes spotting enemies on white backgrounds far easier. And well, the same goes for you as well. You can camouflage against rocks and houses, but you're unlikely to get good shots from these vantage points. It's those options that you have to weigh that are what all well-considered mechanics have. And hey, I haven't even mentioned the snowboards and the gliders that light you up like Christmas ornaments, so well, let me segue into... So like I've mentioned already a few times, one of Ring of Elysium's most interesting inclusions are its free additional mobility options. So that screen where you select your loadout, well as your starting weapons and weight limit, you can also consider how you want to flavour your experience. All three have their particular strengths and weaknesses, so give me a moment to break them down individually. So, my first time playing, I knew exactly what I wanted to go for, the snowboard. In fact, this is actually what sold me entirely on downloading Ring of Elysium in the first place. I mean, can you blame me? Ring of Elysium fulfills my childish dream of a game that's SSX, but you can shoot people. Though, unfortunately, as far as I can tell, you can't actually shoot people from the snowboard, which is a bit rubbish, but hey. Instead, it's more of a way to traverse faster through the environment, especially when travelling down snowy slopes. With a tap of the T button, your character mounts up and you switch over to snowboard controls. It's about as simple as SSX, though missing the particular pizzazz of EA's sports title. You can do pretty sweet tricks though, as you cut lines across the powder. Though be sure to watch for any... oh, yeah. Here's the thing though, a few times the snowboard actually has got me out of sticky situations. For one thing, you move so quickly with such a small profile that it's entirely possible to escape gunfights and take only very minor chip damage. But that's a pretty cowardly use for it, right? I imagine if you were the hardcore Battle Royale player, you may be able to use the snowboarding to distract other players. Moving that quickly and stylishly is going to grab attention that your other team members can use to their advantage. Perhaps the only failing of the snowboard is that it's only great at particular times. In a game that's about getting to a particular point on the map in a short amount of time, sometimes you'll be asked to climb across mountains and go off the straight line to get there. Situations that the snowboard isn't always going to be equipped for. When it does work though, you can't help but feel pretty amazing. And when you're styling in a team of 4, it makes you want to break out the fisheye lens and the hip-hop instrumentals. The snowboard is for the thrill seekers, those that say no to utility vehicles and the path well travelled, and those who want to run away from the battle in style. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about this one. Of the 3 options, it's definitely the least interesting for mobility options. You can use the climbing gear to abseil on specific wires and climb some walls, but that's kind of it. I mean really, this is the pick for people who don't really want to engage with what's interesting about Ring of Elysium. This is the loadout for the scavengers, the ones that want to go in loud with a starting shotgun and then start amassing as many things as possible.
You can actually ignore James here, as he's yet to be enlightened by the beauty of the climbing gear. One must first travel a lonely, spiritual journey in order to understand the meaning of this traversal option. While your friends perish in ludicrous gunfights, you ascend quietly into the snowy peaks in order to find inner peace. While there, one can experience true zen with nary a din to pester you. Stock up on loot left behind by those not brave enough to scale this region's highest peaks, and watch as your comrades continue to sink deeper while you continue to drift upwards. The climbing gear is for those wishing to view the world from the summit of the tallest mountain, watching people as small as ants wander around causing needless violence. Abseiling is the most blissful form of transportation as you traverse the web of wires littering the world, planning a lovely excursion across the map far in advance. While you do start with a very dangerous shotgun, it is best to sling it on your back and quell the enemies with your soothing voice. Apparently you can also scale certain walls with this equipment, but I don't believe the people that claim this. You wait until the very end as the helicopter swoops in, when you finally descend on its position and lift off into the sky. Conflict is not what you desire, and it's certainly not what you're going to get.
Oh, yeah, what he said. This is the most mechanically satisfying of the three options, in my opinion. If you played any previous Battle Royale games, then I imagine you're probably familiar with the concept of a glider during the beginning of a round, using one to parachute in to survey the map before committing to a drop. As I said earlier, Ring of Elysium does things a little differently by letting you choose where to spawn on a map, and placing you on the ground at the start of the round instead. So what does the glider do in Ring of Elysium then, if that's the case? Well, instead, the glider kicks in when you jump from somewhere with enough height and then press the glider button. The controls are a little tricky to get used to. You move forward automatically, and instead pressing the forward button aims you towards the ground. It's actually better to just do nothing and just steer with left and right to maintain as much height as possible. This is what I meant when I was talking about those mountains earlier. They're not just great for survival and surveying, but the more height you have, the more time you'll have off the ground when paragliding. I could probably talk for a while about how many opportunities this opens up for creative problem solving. So instead, I'll go for a couple of examples. Say you want to quickly skip to another part of the map because that's where the safe zone is, or that's where the action is happening. This is how you do it. Perhaps you're being chased up a mountain by a pack of shooters and you need a way to escape them. This is how you do it. Maybe you want to land on the roof of a house and get the drop on an enemy holed up inside. This is how you do it. That's why I mentioned the Breath of the Wild comparison at the beginning of the video, because being able to glide where you want gives this vertical map a lot more accessibility. Combined with the vaulting mechanics, you can get to some really interesting places you otherwise couldn't. Perfect for sniping or hiding. And of course, you can be a coward like myself and just hang around in the sky for as long as possible, haplessly floating above the war zone below, taking in all the wonderful low level of detail assets below you, like you're walking through Legoland Windsor. So what's the problem with it? Well, as I said, it does make your profile twice the size and lit up like a Christmas tree. You are literally a day-glow clay pigeon when paragliding, ready to be picked off by other players. If you only had a way to defend yourself. Ah yes, so that's another thing. The developers thought it was a pretty great idea to let you be able to shoot from the paraglider. And, well, I agree with that. You can live the dream of being your very own drone, raining death from above on unsuspecting players. If you can line up the shot, obviously. I should mention this isn't actually my footage, this is some snakes, so thank you for that. Even if the snowboarding and pickaxe weren't part of Ring of Elysium's package, I could easily recommend it for this alone. It's such a simple tweak, but the way that it ripples across all the different game system, its height map, its vaulting and its shooting, makes it such a wonderful mechanic to play around with. Even if all you're doing is being a coward like me, floating away from real fights and instead soaking in all the cute details that the game has going for it. Oh yeah, hey. I probably should have mentioned that even before you get into the game, Ring of Elysium has a pretty robust character suite for sculpting the man or woman of your dreams. Compared to the generic faces of PUBG and the cute yet cookie cutter Fortnite characters, this can be a person of your own design, making every kill, spill and thrill a little more personal. Sure, everyone does kind of end up looking a little airbrushed, and you're certainly not going to find any shades darker than a slight tan. You're also not going to really see much of them when you're playing either, because you've got a helmet on them, or you've got them dressed head to toe in the pretty limited wardrobe options this game has. But on the bright side, well, while you're here, you can make some pretty good looking monstrosities if you put the time into it, like this handsome devil, or this gorgeous gal, or this guy. Oh jeez. Hey, I guess while I'm talking about aesthetics then, the Unitarian nature of Ring of Elysium's UI was enough to make me a little wary about how the rest of the game was going to look. Its straight edges and Spec Ops colour scheme is in line with the other survival shooters of its kind, a sort of formless matter of fact that's only really there to get you into the game. Fortunately, it's such a relief that the game itself has plenty of personality. I mean, the concept itself does toe the line between the po-faced anarchy of PUBG and the kind of wackadoo just cause of Fortnite. The holiday resort from hell only has 4 seats on a helicopter to escape, so obviously shooting one another is the best way to elect who'll get a ride out. That's not to mention the little pieces of lore that the developers included in the game to actually clue you in about the world you're occupying. As for looks, well, Battle Royale games aren't exactly celebrated for their artistic direction, but I'd say that Ring of Elysium is prettier than most. Well, on one condition. If you decide to give this game a try, go into the settings menu and change the graphics option from realism to vibrant. It can be a little dull and muted when you're running around in the former, but the latter gives the game a real pretty look that approximates the kind of peachy coloured sky you get in a cold atmosphere, with blue fogs and teal greens punctuating the environment. I mean, it does a lot to improve the fact that Ring of Elysium is pretty, well, white. Not just in its character creator, but also the surroundings. I mean, that should be expected considering the game is set on a snowy mountain, but it shouldn't matter too much. When you do find the little pieces of change in the environment, it does make a difference. Those unique touches like the actual placement of structures and the splashes of colour in the banners and branding are more memorable than the standard assets the world is actually built out of. As for performance, well, as far as I can tell, it's also pretty rock solid, though OBS and 15 other applications open on my computer might make it look like a trip through the Chug Factory. Oh, and thanks to Snakerer for giving me some footage that actually looks pretty good to boot this out. And isn't just footage of me being a coward. Anyways. I think maybe my biggest takeaway from Ring of Elysium is that despite being a product of Tencent's monolith, it's considered in its design and charming in its execution. Its unique ideas are fleshed out and play well with the expected systems of the genre. It does stuff that I would actually want to see in the bigger Battle Royale games. Although in this weirder winter holiday gone awry setting, they make logical sense that they might not in a PUBG or even a Fortnite. Stuff like big blue paragliders you can shoot from, or snowboards that you can perform tricks on to avoid gunfire, or abseiling. The rough terrain covered in uniform white that are perfect to hide behind, and flank around, and shoot from, and glide from. These are all good things. Having additional options to solve the same old problems in new creative ways keeps things fresh. It keeps things competitive. It opens up new game plans and might even change how you approach the other Battle Royale games. They're not just single-use gimmicks or distractions. It's new technology. If you're at all interested in the genre, consider giving this a look just to see what added depth looks like in action. And hey, Christmas is coming, and Battle Royales finally have their Die Hard. Because, you know, it's a Christmas movie. And hey, you can't say that's not a unique selling point. Oh, and also the game is free on Steam, so maybe, you know, just go there and, yeah, there we are.
Hey, go for it, guys, before we freeze. We did it.
Holy shit, we did it.
We beat the game. We earned it. Come on.
Come on.
Ah.
Depression boy has boarded.
Oh my god, what footage to have. No more.
We did it.
We win. You better superimpose to Snaker over TJ Panchetta.
You